and share my screen, this one. So probably you can see my shared screen. We have actually ended up here last time. Last time we actually that was our lecture 2, where actually we see the principle of light principle, right? Then actually we ended up, and these are the summary of the formulas we find from there, right? Have you gone through that one? How we, those are actually very silly stuff. We you probably know it from your HSC those stuff, right? They are very silly stuff. Actually we ended up here, eh? So I will actually we ended up in step index and gradient index fiber. We'll actually start from there, from the step index and gradient index fiber. Okay. So remember, we concluded there are two. These are actually the fiber type we discussed, right? The fiber majority, the major fiber kinds are single mode fiber or multi-mode fiber. Multi-mode fiber are two kinds. One is the step index, one is the gradient index. Step index actually where this one kind of where the refractive index from the core to cladding changes suddenly, stepping. In the graded, the refractive index change of the material changes gradually. That's all, right? And we also know why this is happening, why we need a graded index fiber, because to avoid dispersion. Dispersion is, remember, is the when we transmit a signal from transmitter, at the receiver, signal may actually change its shape if it's a digital because of the dispersion. Okay, so we actually talked about step index fiber. Guys, do you see my slides?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, so step index fiber and gradient index fiber. So for step index fiber, let me, if I can write here. So for step index fiber, for step index, what is the refractive index? N. N is N1 in the core, right? And N2 is in the cladding. Straightforward. We know it, right? If this is the core, the cladding, so this is the N1 and this is actually N2. This is N2 in the cladding. This is N2. So this is obvious, but for a gradient index, how the refractive index of the gradient index fiber changes. It changes. So NR is the refractive index, which is actually a function of R. So what is R? Let me draw the gradient index fiber. Eh? So if this is the refractive index, how the gradient index fiber indexing changes. This is the way. So this is the index profile of the gradient index. Okay. So this is actually this part. So this is the core. So this is a core. And this part is the cladding. Remember? So if I draw it in, so this is a core. This part is the cladding. See, this is the index profile. Okay. So here, this is the R. And this is, okay, so this is actually the zero axis from the center. Eh? So imagine this is 0 and this is A. A is the, what is A? If this is the center, imagine this is the center, then A will be this. From the center to the core, this is actually a radius. A is the radius. Right? So this is the A and R is the function where U is actually what is A and R. So this is the A and R. So refractive index of gradient fiber is a function of R, where R actually goes from this direction. Is the radial distance. What is the R? R is the radial distance. What is A? This is A. A is radius. Radius. of core. So this is the function. So this is function. Here you see there is alpha. That's why this is called a alpha profile. Profile for graded index fiber. This formula, this value is true for this condition, where R is greater than 0 to A. Means actually this R is 0 to A. 0 to A. This value from 0 to A. Means actually this is the core. So this is actually the core condition. So this gives actually the refracting index of the core. And this one, this is actually condition for R is greater than A. Means if you go beyond, which is actually cladding. This portion is a cladding, right? So this is actually cladding. So this is the refracting index for cladding. So we know obviously refracting index in the cladding is AN2. This is not a big deal because for graded index, the refracting index from the center to the core, like edges of the core, changes gradually, like this, gradually, right? So what should be the shape of this gradual decrease of the indexing is actually depends on this alpha value. This alpha value. If alpha value is 1, this is the shape. If alpha value is 2, it becomes the perfect parabola. If alpha becomes infinity, this becomes the step index here. Okay. You see this profile, the one, this is actually the half profile. The half profile which is here. This is actually the like zoomed in. This one is actually zoomed in here. Understand? The whole small portion is actually zoomed in for sake of simplicity for description. So this is the way actually we can describe the for best performance, alpha should be 2 because it gives the parabolic shape of this shape, the gradual decrease of the refracting index. Okay, so this is actually up to, this was our last class. Okay, guys, any question up to the last class?
I think it's clear, sir.
Okay, now this class, so whatever we actually learn till the last class, they actually falls in a special category of optics. Okay, what do I mean by that? I didn't tell in your last class because that I don't want to confuse you. Okay, that's why actually I have created this slide for you, the nature of light. Now whatever we have done, we actually done so far, the properties of optics, they actually falls down to the category of ray optics. The study of optics actually broader way actually divided into 2, rays optics and wave optics. Ray of optics actually we already studied this in our SSC HSC. We did lots of like maths, like do you remember when we use concave and convex lens to calculate stuff, right? That's actually the reason that is called ray optics. This actually a free space science. So it's actually free space optics. This is also called a free space optics. So what ray optics actually deals with? So light consists of a stream of minute particles that are emitted by luminous source. Okay, obvious. So particles are pictured as a traveling of a straight line. That's actually the main concept of the ray optics. We imagine, okay, this is a light source and light goes to a straight line from the source. Okay. Now, this concept of ray optics actually works well for large scale phenomena, but it actually do not deal with finer scale. So this ray optics is actually good for defining the concept of reflection and refraction. That's why all the concept we seen till the last classes, they actually fall for these 2 categories, right? We actually discuss the reflection properties of light. We also discuss the refraction properties of light. They are actually falls on this ray optics. Now, because they fails for a finer scale, we need different phenomena. What is mean actually? Because it cannot, this ray optics cannot explain interference and diffraction, these two phenomena of light. It can only give us these two phenomena. It do not gives us this phenomena. That's why you need another like concept of light, which is called wave optics. Wave optics. Now, in wave optics, light is a wave motion. Previously, when in ray optics, we tell that light is a like straight motion of light. But now we say it's a wave motion. What does it mean? What does we mean it by that wave motion? Means actually, instead of moving to straight line, it's actually moving in a waves. That's actually we mean. Okay. Got it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, actually, I was planning to save it as a original slide. Let me save this slide. Wait, guys, I like to save it because we will write a lot. So I like to save the original file. Okay. Okay, we will save it as a PDF probably. So it's lecture 3. Yeah. Okay. Now our job, now our aim is to deal light as a wave optics. So what it do? So light is a wave motion. That's actually the first phenomena. Who invented it? Fresnel. Fresnel is a very well-known scientist in 1815. But light waves are also a electromagnetic in nature. Who invented that? Maxwell, famous scientist, right? In 1864. You see, when Maxwell was invented, actually he propounded, not invented, propounded the Maxwell formula. He did it in theoretical. All Maxwell formulas are actually in theory because at that time there was no mechanism to or experimental setup to support his ideas. But till day, like even in the modern days with modern experiment instrument, his theories actually checks out. All the theories are because his concept was so clear. Now he also, because it's electromagnetic in nature, lights are electromagnetic in nature, light waves are transverse. What does it mean? Transverse means wave motion is perpendicular to the direction of the wave travels. In short, this is the wave motion. When so Maxwell gives the formula for electromagnetic stuff. Electromagnetic. This was very well known when we were using as the RF. Our radio communication, microwave are well checks out. Now, optics is nothing but a microwave. Optics is same as microwave with its higher frequency. That's all. 10 to the power 12 hertz. So optics behave the same way a microwave would do. Okay. So it is a electromagnetic wave. Optics is also as an electromagnetic wave. It has a electrical properties. It has a magnetic properties, or we can say it has a electrical component. It has a magnetic component. I don't know whether this picture. I am actually very bad in picture drawing, so I don't know whether you can understand it. You see, if a electrical field in the red, this red is the electrical field. And in the 90-degree will be the magnetic field. Do you guys understand this one? Whether
Yes. Yes,
okay,
we
in the
can.
plane, because in 2D it's difficult to explain. Okay, so this electrical field and magnetic field, they are actually, this angle is actually 90 degree. Yeah? It's actually 90 degree. So for our we called it transverse. So this electrical field we will call it transverse electrical, and magnetic field we will call transverse magnetic field. Transverse is nothing but this word transfer is nothing but means perpendicular of something or across of something. Okay, so they always makes a 90 degree. Probably you see some other figure where you can see this is magnetic. So this will be automatically electrical. Whatever the directions, their degrees always, they are always in 90 degree apart to each other in free space or the propagation spacing, right? Got it, guys, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, whenever like in wave optical point of view, you see why we propounded wave optics, because our ray optics cannot deal with finer scale phenomena. What does it mean? It means that when we say light is a motion, wave motion, if this wavelength of light, wavelength means from one complete cycle to another one, like this one, it's a lambda. If this is very small, then that is called, actually that's we mean by the finer scale. When this is very small, then the phenomena, then actually the wave optics comes, and the phenomena is like this. Can I draw here? Yeah, I can. From a light source, for example, what happens, the electromagnetic wave radiates actually in a spherical shape, like this way. So this is a source of light, light source. But this wavelength of like lambda of this source is much smaller than the object. For example, this was encountering a object of some object. So for the light, the object is quite bigger. Still, this object is in nanoscale, right? For example, all the light wave we actually deal with is in nanometer. In nanometer, nanometer is nothing but 10 to the minus 9. Means actually this object is approximately this range, 10 to the power 9. Like you see how small it is, eh? It's a billion of a meter. 10 to the 9 is a billionth of a meter. It's like very small. When it encounter a smaller object, then actually it sees, this guy sees actually this light is coming as a parallel, these ways, like plane wave format instead of spherical. Though the light actually going as a spherical, like this is the source of light, but when this guy, like some object where the light wavelength is much smaller, like much smaller, then this object actually sees light is coming in parallel. This is understandable, right? For example, same thing happens for sun. When we see sun, we assume that sunlight actually coming as a parallel, but which is not. Sun is a like center stuff. Guys, understand my explanation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So whenever we encounter for a smaller, because we are now dealing with wave optics, instead of this spherical phenomena, we'll actually treat light as these parallel planes, that we assuming that light rays or waves of light will come as a parallel, just for simplicity actually. Okay, now let's see what is in our slide. I will like to. Okay, now there are two kind of rays of type of rays. We will actually discuss this one type of rays, like how the rays are actually seen in optical fiber. One is the meridian rays. Actually, these are fall on the rays optics. I forget to cover it in the previous slide. Okay, so in the types of rays, there is a meridial rays. When actually, what is a meridial rays? For example, let me draw it. This is a just step index fiber is easier to draw. That's why I draw it. Step index fiber. So if I draw it this way, for example, light goes this direction. So it goes there, 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 there. what happens? Like it's total internal reflection. So I can see in your cross section of optical fiber, you can see only this. You see, you can see the top here. You can see the bottom here. So if we see if you like to see a fields, we can actually see these fields in meridional ray. So in meridional ray, there are actually easier to track down. Like if you slice the optical fiber, you can say there is a light coming out. But there is another way, which is called skew ray. Skew ray is little bit complex, which actually goes through or travel through by helical path. Helical path means actually this way, like this. So in optical fiber, in some optical fiber, the light may travel not through the axis. It actually goes to the like very periphery, to the periphery. So if I go see in a cross section, this is a cross section, this one. So it goes to the periphery. Light goes from here, from here to here. This point is this one. From here to here, up to this point. From there to there, up to this point. You see, light actually travel, instead of traveling through the center, it's actually traveling through the periphery. Then actually we call it skew ray. The only one reason that it is difficult to track. Sometimes, for example, for security purpose, you may transmit the light instead of straight path to the skew ray. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I actually this is the phenomena I forget to cover in the last lecture, which is supposed to be the ray part. We are on now in the wave optics. Okay. So everything will be like wave. Okay. Let's see. For wave optics, one of the coolest part we will actually study today is the modes theory for circular waveguide, or like we actually study the modes. Do you is the first time you are actually hearing the word modes? Probably not. We actually discuss this word or like this phenomena previously. For example, this transverse electrical and transverse mechanical, they are called the modes of a, when they are traveling through optical fiber, we call modes of the optical fiber. So transverse electrical is a mode, transverse magnetic is also a mode. So in how this electromagnetic was implemented first in microwave, actually, when they were traveling through, for example, hollow metallic waveguide. In electrical engineering, we do not or anymore study this this phenomena. I don't. So actually, I wanted to draw a 3D of. Okay. Previously, light for guiding microwave, we use hollow metallic waveguide. Okay, for electromagnetic transmission. There, transverse electrical and transverse mechanical, these two modes is very popular. But for our cases, it's very easier to explain Maxwell equation. But for our optical fiber, there is a complex stuff arises because of the core and cladding. You see, the boundary of the core and the boundary of the cladding is very complex. Okay, we'll discuss it more. That's why instead of transverse electrical and transverse mechanical, there are also a hybrid mode generators. If it's a hybrid electrical, then we call HE. If it's a hybrid mechanical, we call HM. So these two actually extra arises in the optical fiber mode analysis because of the like difficulties of the boundary condition of the core and cladding. Because you see the refracting index of N1 and N2 in core and cladding, this N1 and N2 is almost similar. You see, is N1 and N2 is very much close to each other. That's why light do not like stay in the one places. It actually goes to the from like leakage happens, blah 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 things happens, like because it's light. It's always tend to go through the transparent medium, so the boundary condition is very complex, which is unlike to the metallic hollow core microwave waveguide. Now, in optics, we also call the optical fiber also a waveguide, which is a circular, or more precisely, it's actually cylindrical, not circular, cylindrical waveguides. Okay, to explain a like optical waveguide, we will simplify it, and we will actually try to use it as a dielectric slab. Dielectric slab. What is that? Dielectric slab is nothing but the waveguide, which is actually like 2D waveguide. Okay, not yet. For example, imagine this is not yet a optical fiber. So we took a dielectric slab. Of course, optical fiber itself is a dielectric, right? So we took a imaginary ideal dielectric. In this dielectric, which is actually this one. This, for example, this is a dielectric in the box. In this dielectric, we have two kind of refracting index. So here, like in this area, this is having a refracting index N, and these two area have a refracting index of N2. Like we use two kind of material. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This sample actually, that like this like test case is actually same as the ideal optical fiber. You see, if I what is called, if I slice an optical fiber, or if you see to the cross section of an optical fiber, you will actually see the same phenomena, right? So that's why actually this our dielectric slab will work as a cross section view of an optical fiber. Okay. Okay. So in this dielectric slab, this is our like exemplary or ideal waveguide, where we use or we try to create a scenario like a optical fiber, where we have a core, and we have a cladding. Okay, so we already seen in a dielectric what kind of modes we can see in dielectric, or waveguide. What kind of modes we can see? We can see transverse electrical or transverse magnetic. These modes we can see. Now we see how we see a typical transverse electrical, how the transverse electrical field actually distributed in a dielectric slab. So here, one thing, the order of the mode is equal to the field crossing to the zero. For example, this is actually our core and cladding. By this, you can see this is actually our boundary of the core and cladding, or dielectric slab, whatever it is, and this is actually our reference. Okay. Now we like to see what is the transverse electrical zero field look like. Transverse electrical zero fields will be looking like this. Okay, this is transverse electrical zero. What we say? The order of modes is equal to the field crossing zero to the guide. This is actually our guiding mode. You see, this is our guide mode. We want that our electromagnetic fields, which is in our case light, will actually guide through this region. So is there any zero crossing here? No, that's why this is called a transverse electrical zero. Okay, let's see. Transverse electrical 1, how it will be look like. So how many crossing here?
So one crossing.
1. So that's why this is transverse electrical 1. Let's say transverse electrical 2. Now, how many crossing? 1 and 2. That's why it's a transverse electrical 2 modes actually, because we say the order of modes is equal to the field crossing the zero of the guide. So this is the guiding region. Okay, now can I write here something? Okay, actually, how does it will be look like in an optical fiber? Actually, I have drawn these two figure. So this is actually our core, this region. This is actually our core region. I didn't draw the cladding, so cladding is obvious. So N2 is cladding. So you see here, this is actually our at angle, this light actually like falls in. Now here, this is actually also another one. This is also the angle. Sorry, this. So from the plane, so this is the angle from the plane. This is the angle. This one, I try to make the angle little bit steeper. Okay. So this angle, for example, this angle is greater than this angle. Means for our acceptance angles, which is alpha, for example, alpha 1, here acceptance angle is alpha 2. You increase the acceptance angle more, the optical, for example, this is a critical angle. Imagine this is the critical angle. This is the critical angle. If your acceptance angle is more than critical angle, what will happen? For example, this is your light. What will happen? This actually falls here, and it will try to because this angle is more than this angle is more than this angle. This angle is more than the critical angle, means actually light will actually pass through or refract through the cladding. We actually discussed this phenomenon previously, right? Because total internal reflection is not happening. Means actually light is actually is having making some leakage in the system, which we do not want. Understand, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how this mode stuff come now? Okay, what this this picture tells us. This picture tells us that field partially goes into cladding, isn't it? You see, this field here partially goes in the cladding, right? Now this field also partially goes to the cladding. This field also partially goes to the cladding. Now lower the mode. This is lower mode. TE0 is the lower mode. Lower, if it's a lower mode, then most of the optical power actually is in the guided mode, and a small portion is actually in the cladding. Higher the mode, actually what happens? More and more, actually, if I draw it, actually it should be more than this one. This area actually more than this area. So higher the mode, higher the areas or leakage or what is called the optical power goes to the cladding region. So for a optical like for optimized performance, which mode we should be choosing?
So 0, right?
TE0 mode, which is the lower mode. We always want to choose a lower mode so that maximum optical power is in a guiding mode. This is a guiding mode, and less power will be in the cladding region. In the cladding region, because in the cladding region power we cannot use. It's no no use in the cladding region. Okay, so if we divide, so there are what called there is a, so these for lower mode there is a guiding rays. So modes are guiding rays 1. If it's a higher mode, then the propagation modes we can call it actually radiation mode. Because of this leakage, the one in the radiation. When it happens, TE2, for example, you see TE2, this one actually similar to the TE2. You see TE2, this is higher, you see 1, 2, there are 2 crossing happens. So in higher modes tends to be the angle is higher than the acceptance angle, which is actually this one. We see it here. Means actually there is a higher chance that some of the light will be actually goes to the cladding region due to the like not following total internal refraction. And this light, what will happen if I complete this figure? If I draw the cladding, what will happen? The light which is actually goes to the cladding, this light will also bounce back this way. Understand? But this light actually no use for us. This portion of light is no use for us. Okay, so in higher mode, when had a more chance that the light goes to the cladding region, and there is actually two things happens in the radiation mode. You see, even in the normal mode, some of the lights are also already in the cladding region, isn't it? Also, like this ray, some of the rays are actually already in the cladding region, and also the light which goes to the cladding itself. There are two modes now. You see, these two modes, this light energy and this light energy, they now compete for energy, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so this is actually not a good phenomena for us. So what we actually can summarize between this guiding mode and radiation mode. Guiding mode is preferable, radiation mode not is preferable. In guiding mode, higher number of higher optical power can be carried, but in radiation not. If radiation power is increasing, what does it mean? Means that this phenomena is happening, the seizing of power between the cladding and the leakage of the cladding from the core. They will actually compete for energy, back and forth. Okay, so we do not want, because that this whatever the energy in the cladding in this region will be lost. So more power will be in the cladding region, actually will be it's a lossy system. Okay, there are actually another mode which is called leaking mode, but this mode actually its phenomena is little bit complex and somehow do not falls to our study so far. If it comes to scope, I will discuss it later, but its mechanism is little bit complex. That's why I'm not discussing it now. Okay, so do you guys the modes, how we calculate modes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now so what is the okay, so for lower modes, fields are tightly concentrated at the center, blah blah, we know it. For higher modes, fields are highly penetrated in the cladding, we know it. Okay, so for guiding mode, if modes to be guided, this is the condition. Beta has to be greater than N2K. What is that beta? Beta is nothing but the propagation factor. Now, the condition where beta becomes N2K, that is called the cutoff condition. Means this is the least condition. You cannot go beyond. If it go beyond, then you will be in the from guiding mode to the radiation mode. Got it? So this word is very important, that cutoff condition, where this cutoff condition happens. Remember, we want to be in the guiding mode. We do not want to be the radiation mode, but what is the limit of this condition? This is the limit of this condition. Beta has to be N2K. What is the K? K we know, K equal to 2 pi by lambda. So if we know the wavelength and refracting index of any fiber is fixed, so we know the propagation factor. It's a constant value for a particular dimension of fiber. So that cutoff condition is very, very important at a certain point where N2K becomes beta. Otherwise, it goes to a radiation mode. Now, from this cutoff condition, we actually had to find a value called the V parameter, which is called the normalized frequency of optical fiber. So what is the question comes? What is the so V number if is what? V number decides the number of modes in an optical fiber. How many modes will be in an optical fiber? This V parameter gives us the. So probably in your book, actually, for this chapter, we are following more in Kaiser book, but I actually none of the Kaiser and our book, which is Agrawal, I didn't see any derivation of this V number. That's why actually I give it detail here. So V actually is expressed by this equation where U is the radial propagation constant and W is the cladding decay parameter. Okay, so what I did some expression of the U and expression of the W and putting back this formula here. WW, you actually end up with the V parameter. V. This actually V parameter gives us the number of modes in the optical fiber, which is actually related to the wavelength A, which is actually I use A. Okay, A and D are interchangeable in our cases, which is actually the diameter of the core and the numerical aperture. So if you know all this formula, you can see how many modes will be in an optical fiber. This will be very easily understood if we do some problem solving we'll do in this class. Okay, so remember this formula. Okay,
Okay.
The V parameter, which is actually number of modes, is defined by the 2 pi, which is both constant A or D, which is diameter of the core, which is also a constant for a particular fiber. Lambda is a wavelength, which is also constant for a particular operation, and numerical aperture, which is also constant because numerical aperture is nothing but the N1 and N2 relation, the refractive index, which is also so V parameter is a fixed constant value for a particular fiber and particular wavelength. If you change this wavelength, V parameter, if you increase this value, the V parameter will decrease, right? We will actually see by increasing if multi-mode fiber, which have lots of modes, for example, hundreds of modes, if you increase this wavelength, then we reduce these modes to a single one modes. It will convert to a single mode fiber. We'll see in the example. Okay, so also number of modes and the V parameter relation actually defined by this one. This formula we will be using here. Actually, the same thing we formulate the numerical aperture previously for a small angle. Sin theta becomes theta. So we actually end up with this equation. This equation, general expression. M is the number of modes. Now we have two kind of modes happening. Single mode is always single mode, one mode. But step index and gradient index, how many modes will be there? This will be a general formula. Here, alpha parameter changes. How it changes? Remember when we study the gradient index fiber? If this gradient index, the mode profile changes as a parabolic formula, alpha becomes 2. If it's alpha become infinity, it is step index. If alpha becomes 1, it's a like triangle mode. This shape, the mode changes. So if you put alpha equal to 2, you will be find it's a gradient index fiber. Okay, if you put alpha equal to infinite, it will be step index fiber. So let's say what is the M? If alpha equal to infinity, okay, so alpha equal to infinity, what will be the M value? So in infinity, so infinity plus 2 is also infinity plus V square by 2, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's actually V square by 2. If alpha equal to 2 for gradient index fiber, what is the M? M equal to 2 plus 2 V square by 2. So it will be V square by 4.
4.
So this is actually our formula. We know directly that, okay, if you know the V parameter from the previous cases, if I know from the V parameter, I can easily find the number of modes here by step index or gradient index fiber. These are very simple math, so I didn't actually go detail because for you guys, like it's very silly stuff. Okay. This thing we in this class we inshallah will solve some examples. Okay. Now, okay. Now, the question arises: why this V parameter or how it looks like this V parameter falls from the sky, right? Actually, it didn't. This V parameter do not fall from the sky. It's all about Maxwell equation. So guys, prepare for the shock. Okay. Maxwell equation. So anyone remember Maxwell equation? So in this class, I will give you a very general description of the Maxwell equation, which will be used in our optical fiber, but how this V, and I will show you that how the V comes actually the solution from this Maxwell equation. Now the detail of this, like the derivation of the equation, I will upload a separate video lecture, like online lecture, where I will actually derive this whole Maxwell equation, because if I do it now, it will like we only spoil time just for derivation, right? So I will actually inshallah upload a separate lecture just to derive a Maxwell equation and how it comes as a solution. Okay, so in this class, in this slide, actually I kept one page today so that I can give you an idea how it will be using. Okay, so you can also yourself study, or I will upload an extra stuff, but that lecture will be an extra. For optical communication, it is not mandatory that you had to have this solution. Okay, this is not including in our syllabus, but we are in MSc postgraduate, so we really want to understand how actually in mathematically it happens. That's why those things will be as an extra. Okay, guys. Okay. Now Maxwell equation defines by only 4 formulas. Like it actually came as a story that Maxwell actually found these formulas in dream. Probably, I don't know whether you know it or not. He actually found this formula in dream. Okay, so for this one, 2 of the concept, divergence and curl. Of course, divergence and curl I will not explain in this slide. I inshallah in the extra slide I'll actually also define and try to explain divergence and curl also. Okay, so just for mathematical formula. So the divergence of electrical field. So I cannot write D as a capital. That's why actually I give it as a vector. Okay, is 0. And divergence of B, which is also a magnetic field. You see, we actually know electrical field E as magnetic field H. So how I write D as a electrical field and B as a magnetic field, I will show you. So this is 2 formula, and curl of electrical is okay. So this is also a vector. It's nothing but and the curl of guys, don't worry, this is not in our syllabus. But I like to give you some idea how these things happen. Now here, what is the D and B? So D is nothing but psi E, and B mu H. That's how it's come, right? You see, B equal to nothing but these are the constant value. What is the psi and mu? Psi is nothing but the permittivity. Psi is the permittivity, and mu is the permeability of the magnetic field. So you see, the D is nothing but E with a constant, and B is nothing but the H with a constant. That's why we can say that divergence of electrical field is 0 and divergence of magnetic field is 0, but there is a condition. What is the condition? The condition is that the system is a linear, isotropic, and no free charge is there. No free charge. Free. That's why actually you see, if it's not an isotropic, how the electric field and optical magnetic fields comes, right? Okay, so we can write it a little bit differently. So this one, curl of electrical field. This one I can rewriting it. Curl of, so what I did, I actually multiplied with the curl. I am making it as again a curl. So what is happening is, we know curl of E is minus D by dt of B, right? This one B. So B is also mu H, right? So it will be, sorry. I just write this equation here, nothing else. So what we do, we take it out, d by dt mu, and again put it inside. This part is put it inside with the H, with the curl. We again, this formula H, this one is replaced. Okay, so minus d by dt mu. What is that? Is d by d by dt. D also f psi e. D is actually also f psi e. So how do we find? Total minus mu f psi
D square by dt.
d square by dt square e. Okay.
Yes.
So this is actually our one formula. Now we know from the vector identity, this is a function. This is actually a formula that if you do this one, for example, this is A, then the derivation of this formula is actually in the appendix of the end of this book. Okay, so I'm not going to the derivation. This is the formula. It's called a vector identity formula. This equal to this two term. Now this term itself, which is actually this one, you see this formula can be rewritten here like this, because d is nothing but a f psi. F psi is a constant, and the e vector, which is 0, this is also a 0. So this becomes 0, means total becomes 0. So this formula equals to this one. So it becomes minus e. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So which is actually this one, minus, isn't it? So we can remove the minus. So what we can say, that this is for the electrical field. For electrical field, we can write it. So we can write that divergence of E square equal to mu f psi d square by dt square E for the electrical field. We can write the same thing for the magnetic field. Mu f psi. I'm not deriving this, but it will come to the same thing, to the H. So these two formula together, they call standard wave equation. Standard wave equation. From this formula, actually, you can apply this formula to, if it's a waveguide, for example, if it's a waveguide, what kind of waveguide? If it's a square waveguide, means actually metallic waveguide, which was used for microwave, and it can be used for the cylindrical waveguide, which is actually our optical fiber. After optical fiber is nothing but a cylindrical waveguide. So if you apply this formula to the cylindrical waveguide, where we will have like cylindrical coordinate, then the solution of this will give a phenomena of the V parameter. Actually, it will give you a it will give you a, what is called the Bessel function. Bessel function. The solution of these two, if we apply this solution to the cylindrical, this will end up with the Bessel function. And if we plot this Bessel function, the Bessel function will look like this. Let me show you how. Probably because this is not in our scope, but we could have plotted in our MATLAB, so we will actually end up the same stuff. Okay, so I will try to show you in the MATLAB. You see, this is a Bessel function where this is our normalized frequency. Okay, I like to open it in a. I cannot edit this, so let me Fiverr. Okay, here. You see all this solution, I will actually probably in a time, I will explain it in a separate video. Let me see. Yeah, here, this is a normalized frequency V, and you know, B by K, which was our guiding mode. Remember? Cutoff condition, remember the cutoff condition? So if we plot, we see that for particular this value is 2 point, what is that value?
So less than 2.5, 2.4.
2.4, right? Okay, 2 point, this is actually 2.405. For this value, up to for V of this value, we have a single mode. You see, single mode, one mode comes HE. This is actually hybrid electrical 1 mode comes. After that, 3 mode comes. You see, 1, 2, 3. Transverse electrical 0, 1, transverse electrical mechanical 0, 1, and hybrid electrical 2, 1 modes come. Means actually, if you can maintain your V parameter below this value, then you will have a single mode fiber. Beyond that, you will have a multi-mode fiber or multi-mode output. So you see how we end up from this standard wave equation to this V parameter, and we can find or we can determine that whether the fiber will work as a multi-mode or single mode fiber. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We will do. And so this is actually our V parameter. So remember this value 2.405, V equal to 20405. Okay. Okay. So where we end up, we actually say these are the standard wave equation. If we apply standard wave equation to a cylindrical waveguide, we will end up a Bessel function. From this Bessel function, if we plot Bessel function as a function of V parameter from beta by K function, we get a function where we can see V equal to 2.405. This value comes. This gives us as a boundary condition whether the optical fiber is a single mode or optical fiber is a multi-mode. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, if it's equal to 2.405, then it's single mode or multi-mode?
If it's 205 less than 205 or equal to 205, 20405, 2.405, then it is single mode. Beyond that, it's multi-mode.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I today we actually talked a lot of mathematics. If we can solve some probably solve some equations, then actually our example will be. Now let me summarize what the formulas we end up so far. Okay. Okay, we have this theta is a critical angle. Remember, theta critical angle was sine inverse n2 by n1. We have acceptance angle theta a or alpha, which is actually sine inverse n1 square minus n2 square. Actually, these are the formula we got so far. Okay, and numerical aperture. Numerical aperture was sine alpha or acceptance angle, which is actually n1 square minus n2 square, which is of course by this formula twice del half. and relative refractive index del 1 minus n2 by n1. We also find a V parameter, right? V parameter, V equal to 2 pi A or D, whatever the dia, by, sorry, 2 pi, lambda by numerical aperture. We also find M, number of modes, M equal to alpha plus 2, depends on what kind of, so we can also find for step index the number of modes n equal to v square by 2, which is actually 1 by 2 pi d numerical aperture by lambda square. If it's a gradient index, the number of modes n will be v square by 4. We have also seen it previously, which will be 1 by 4 pi d numerical aperture by lambda square. Okay, this is overall all the formulas we find today. Now here I actually wrote some example. Let's see. A stem index fiber has n1. Okay, so what we have n1 equal to 1.44. We have n2 equal to 1.4. Find numerical aperture. So can you find it numerical aperture? We know n1 and n2. So numerical aperture, you find n1 and n2. So we can find numerical. What is delta? We know delta. If you know n2 and n1, you know. Okay. What is accepted angle? Accepted angle theta is nothing but a sine inverse n1 n2. Easy, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So solve it. It's a silly stuff. Okay. Now the refractive index of the core of the step index fiber is 1.46, and the relative refractive index is 2%. Find numerical aperture and critical angle, right? So what we have n, we have, okay, n1 equal to 1.46, and we also have del equal to 2%. 2% is nothing but 0.02. We have numerical aperture. We know formula. Numerical aperture is nothing but what?
N1 into
n1
del.
twice del by half. Okay, put the formula. You will have something. What is the critical angle? Critical angle is theta c. Okay, so theta c is sine inverse n2 by n1. You see, n1 we have, but we do not have n2. So how can I find n2 from this formula? From this del formula, del equal to 1 minus n2 by n1. We have n1, so we know also del. We will find n2. That n2 we'll put it here. Then we find critical angle, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, easy, very easy stuff. Okay. So what is the next one? A step in this fiber has a numerical aperture. What is that? 1.6, and core refractive index, blah, blah, blah. Core diameter is 60. Determine the normalized frequency. Normalized frequency for the fiber when light at a wavelength of 8.2 micrometer is transmitted. Estimate the number of guided modes. It's a good one. So what we have here? We have a numerical aperture. Numerical aperture is given 0.6 of the core, and refractive index is given. So n1 is given 1.45. What is also given? Diameter d. D is given 60 micro. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 6. What else given? When the light is wavelength. So lambda is given. Lambda equal to 0.82 micro. 0 minus 6 is given. What else given? Okay, what they are asking for?
So V and M.
Number of guided modes. So we are looking for M, right? We are looking for number of modes, M. How many modes actually? Okay. M equal to Okay, so what we can have? We know this is a a step index fiber. So for a step index fiber, m equal to v square by 2. So we need to find v. V equal to what? 2 pi d by lambda numerical aperture. D is given there, lambda is given there, everything is given there. So we can find it, right?
Yes.
Okay. What else? A multimode stepped index fiber has a refractive index or relative refractive index of 1%. Okay, let's see what we have. So we have del is 1%, which is 0.01, and a core refractive index, which is N1, is 1.5. The number of modes propagating at a wavelength is given 1.3 micro 10 to the minus 6 is. So the number of mode m is given now, right? Estimate the diameter of the fiber d. What is d? So this is multimode. Oh, this is step index fiber, right? So m equal to v square by 2. Remember we had a formula, m equal to this formula, this one, step index,
Yes, sir. V square by 2.
v square by 2, and v square equal to this one, this formula. So we have what they are asking for.
So diameter.
Pi is given there, d is given.
D is we have to find.
D is not given.
Yeah.
So D numerical aperture is given, lambda is given. Can we find it? Easy.
Yes, sir.
Easy. What else? Nothing else, huh? Okay, we done? Okay, so it's easy. Most of the formulas. Now, in this formula, okay, this example, okay, the D, okay, we can do the same thing. We can make it trick that we can change the wavelength so that I don't know what is the this is M. So this is a multi-mode, M 1100 modes. To make it a single mode, okay, to make it a single mode fiber means 1. What we have to do? We have to change the V, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me check what is the V parameter comes in this. Okay, we do not have values, but V will be obviously higher than 2.405. Now we make a trick that, okay, to convert this multi-mode fiber to a single mode fiber, we will reduce the mode so that V was very high previously. We'll decrease the value V, and for what D this value comes. Okay, we can make lots of trick. Okay, so probably this kind of stuff also available in the exercise. What else? Today time is already up. Okay, guys. Hopefully the class was okay. I will try to explain this Maxwell equation in an extra classes, and by next week, inshallah, we can complete this chapter. Then we can go to other like transmitter, laser, and detector for detector chapters. Okay, so let me stop here. Stop sharing. Stop.